Hi everyone, today I want to talk about the Season of the Millennium theme in Diablo 4. I guess most of you have seen it already, and now after playing it, I do have some feedback items that I just want to get out there, give my opinions, and maybe see if Blizzard will potentially make some adjustments, or at the very least, maybe learn a few things for the future. Because we know that this season theme was developed alongside the original game, and now it has launched just a few weeks after the original game's release. So it kind of makes sense that it's a bit of a small theme and not really like as expansive as maybe we would hope for. And I guess that in the future that will improve. But even so, I think there are some things that could be done right now with the theme that would definitely make it more interesting for the long term, for like the rest of the season basically, because we are just starting out. And it could be better with just some tweaks in my opinion. So number one is you have the seasonal quest line, and it kind of like shows you around. You go to the tunnels, you have to farm those malignant monsters. You can see them here right now. And generally, I kind of like that they made some kind of like new type of elites. They also have like some new affixes with those devious and brutal modifiers and all that stuff. But generally, they don't really seem all that interesting after all. So you defeat these elites, and then this heart drops on the ground, and you click the heart, and then the monster respawns again, and then it drops the item for it. And well, originally those were advertised as like some really powerful elites, the Malignant Plague that sweeps over all of Sanctuary. And I figured this would actually be like some, way harder fights. And I really don't like that they are basically just yet another like elite punching bag, so to say. So they don't really actually seem harder than any other elite most of the time, in my opinion. I'm not sure if you have noticed that, but at least from my perspective, I felt like they kind of have the same HP, they have the same damage, the same affixes, they have like maybe this one extra affix, okay. But I was expecting a lot harder enemies there for especially the power of items they drop. These hearts are insanely powerful, at the very least some of them, and I figured that there should be a bit of a challenge behind such a powerful reward. It's actually very easy to just go to any of those tunnels, farm them like 2 times in 5 minutes, and you most likely have the heart that you're looking for, unless it's one of the raffle ones that are omega rare. So personally, I don't really like that these elites are just so easy. And I think it would be fine if they were like literally, I don't know, twice the damage and like 10 times the HP. And you actually have a bit of like a mini boss fight, so to say, where, it's a bit of a back and forth and you actually play around the elite a little bit more than typically. Because in normal combat, you just basically blow them up as normal. Of course, what you see here right now is me being extremely undergeared, fresh in Torment, being 10 levels behind. So it's a bit slow, but I guess for most regular gameplay, when you have a working build, these fights are extremely short. And I think that especially this season where we get so much power from those hearts, we are actually stronger than before, even counting in the nerfs in most cases, I think. Like, I feel like most of the builds have actually improved and not really lost anything from this patch. So why not actually make some challenging enemies here? I think as a compensation, there could also just be like a higher drop rate of those raffle hearts, which is the one thing that everyone is looking for. Right now, there's actually an exploit going around where you just don't finish the seasonal quest line. There's the last quest where you have to defeat Varshan in one of the tunnels, and he always drops Varshan's heart, which is a raffle one, or the super hearts. And if you just never turn in that quest, you can just farm this guy over and over. So this is like an exploit that people are doing. I have not done that, but yeah, I know this is what's happening. I'm pretty sure that will be fixed very soon, so enjoy it while it lasts, I guess. But I think that is obviously also not really great. Then that brings me to the next point, which is those outgrowths here. So we see this right now, actually. At the end of those tunnels, you have always the option to get one of those hearts that you're looking for. Each of the tunnels has like a specific color attached to it and a specific heart type. And then you have like this raffle heart. And man, I have never clicked one of those raffle like outgrowths here. I just don't have any of those invokers and I can't get it. So when you complete the seasonal quest line, you can actually craft those invokers here, and they allow you to go into those tunnels and then get one of those hearts of your choice on purpose, basically. Now the thing is that these invokers also drop all the time. I have like 100 of them here in my inventory with my level 70 sorcerers. So you just get like infinite amount of these invokers. And I don't want any of these. I don't care about this one more random brutal heart that I can just find from defeating monsters anyway. Like they just stack up, you run nightmare dungeons, you find these malignant monsters, and you have them. And there's only so few of these hearts, and there's also not really like an extreme range of affix rolls on them. You know, okay, sometimes they have like, you know, some better and worse rolls, or better item power or worse item power. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, because you just find, you know, some kind of like around 700 item power eventually, you equip it, and yeah, maybe can like min-max it a little bit later. So no one in their right mind would go into one of those tunnels just to get like one more of those brutal hearts, or one more of those vicious hearts, or something like that. The one thing that we're actually after are those wrathful ones, and I just can't farm them. That's the thing. Like, I have all these invokers and I can't do anything with them. So apparently the only way to acquire one of those wrathful invokers is to craft this cache here with an uncertain invoker, and that has a chance to give you one of those wrathful ones. Same thing as the uncertain heart cache, then has a chance to give you a wrathful heart. Now I can actually craft a few, so I have a bunch of materials saved up. I guess I could maybe get some, but before that I was like crafting all of it and I got nothing. I didn't get a single of these invokers, and I absolutely do not want to craft a non-wrathful invoker. And basically the same for the hearts, honestly. So I'm not really sure why these two things exist. I think both these crafted caches could straight up just be replaced with like a much more costly recipe that just guarantees you a wrathful either invoker or heart. So I'm not really sure why you even want both of these. I think the invoker would be the only choice that really is interesting here, so that you actually, you know, take that thing, go into the tunnel, and then click on this wrathful heart and actually summon the monster, and it's like some big tough fight, and then you get your heart as a reward, and you actually get to play the seasonal mechanics. Because if you actually stay here in town and just craft uncertain hearts, which by the way costs only half of the invoker for some reason, you don't even have to go through the tunnel, you don't even have to play a mechanic. So that is pretty backwards in my opinion. And lastly, we have the boss fight, Varshan. So they made a pretty cool new boss here. It actually has some interesting mechanics and some interesting animations and stuff. And there's different versions of this. Now, what happened to me during the world first race is that I figured this would actually be quite important to try to farm this guy for those wrathful hearts. So I tried it out a little bit and actually took some time out of racing to try to defeat this guy and see if I could get something. That didn't really work out very well. And I also learned that you actually have to go difficulty by difficulty to unlock the next recipe. So there are these different recipes here. There's Invoker of Varshan that works on, I believe, World Tier 2. And then there's the Foul one that works on World Tier 3. And then there's the Tormented one that works on World Tier 4. And you always have to craft this one, then this one, then this one. And you can summon him on higher and higher difficulty. Now, that is actually not communicated anywhere in the game. So what happened to me is that I went to World Tier 3 and I just couldn't use my Invoker of Varshan. And then I had to go back to World Tier 2 in like level 50 content, and I actually farmed like 3 tunnels until someone told me that I was in the wrong one and I have to go to another tunnel, and it just didn't really make much sense. I think it would make a lot more sense if the boss was actually like a random spawn, like if this boss room was like randomized in each of the tunnels, so that you actually get to play through them, and then at the end you get rewarded with like a boss, and then you can summon him and fight him there and maybe get some cool rewards. But at the very least, it should be communicated somewhere in the game that, you know, certain tunnels have this boss and certain others can't have it, and that you actually need to defeat the boss on each of the difficulties to unlock the next one. Because right now, this just doesn't really make much sense. And on the other hand, I also really sad that Blizzard has advertised this as like some kind of endgame challenge or something like that. Like, I think it was actually called Pinnacle Boss and stuff like that. And we kind of assumed there would be like a scaling version that maybe goes up to the same level of Uber Lilith, or at the very least, you know, somewhere in that direction of like some kind of endgame challenge. But as it turns out, that is absolutely not the case. So the hardest version of this boss is level 80 and has like, I don't know, 10 million HP or something like that, compared to Uber Lilith that has like 300 million HP and one-shots you with almost all of her attacks. So that is obviously a massive gap there, and I don't really see the harm in just like making at least some level 100 version of this boss. They have this scaling, you know, monster level system in the game already, so why not have some kind of like actual pinnacle challenge? It doesn't have to be like as min-maxed and as, you know, super crazy hard as Uber Lilith, but, you know, at least beefing them up by like, you know, times 10 or something like that, and just giving some level 100 players something to do. Maybe with a decent chance of like, you know, dropping Wrathful Hearts, or a decent chance of maybe dropping some uniques or something like that. that would be nice, honestly. So I don't really see the harm in that. Other than this though, I gotta say that the season mechanic, at least the hearts, are relatively well done. There are some that are generally more powerful than others, and some that are generally pretty useless. Some are pretty bugged. So some examples here are, for example, the Determination heart. I tried this out yesterday, and there's only one reason for this heart to exist, which is resource burn affixes in Nightmare Dungeons. And, well, it straight up doesn't work. So I literally made a ring, I rerolled the ring, spent millions of gold to have a backup ring with that thing socketed. And I went into a dungeon and it just didn't work. I just got drained instantly anyway. So that is a bit of a sad story. And there are some others that are just like kind of terrible. But yeah, you know, for example, the Lion Heart here, a bit of barrier generation and like a minuscule amount of life regen is obviously not even in the same galaxy as something like Revenge that straight up gives you 20% damage reduction at all times. So there's definitely a bit of like a misbalancing here. But for the most part, I'm kind of happy that, you know, some classes got some really cool ones. We do have some really cool new build options in some cases. And some of them just really like actually change how you want to build your character, like the Creeping Death, like the Barber. So they actually have like a real impact on your build. And that was actually really well done in my opinion. For the long term, I would definitely like to see some of those hearts become actual like unique items or legendaries or something like that. I guess there's definitely potential for this. And let's see if Blizzard actually takes some of these effects and puts them into the game afterwards. They said that they won't really like keep the season theme around, which is okay. It's not really crazy in my opinion. But maybe this general idea of occasionally having like these very powerful monsters that I described earlier would be really cool. So maybe at least this could be like some, you know, long-term game system where maybe sometimes you find like, you know, some really beefed up kind of mini bosses instead of just a regular elite in a dungeon or something like that. A little bit like how sometimes you run into the Butcher. In any case, that's my feedback for the season theme so far. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or not. And maybe which of the hearts are really awesome that you really want to see in the future as well. And maybe Blizzard will keep some of these around. That's it. Hope you liked this video, and I'll see you guys next time.